Goldie, she, the Madigans play everything close to the vest, and so there's not a peep out of her corner at this point. Susanna Mendoza, on the other hand, has just jumped right in, and she's making all kinds of moves behind the scenes. Now, she was out front today. Tina covered it, and I don't think she said anything. But the truth is, she's going around and asking people for support. It's tricky for her because she's running. She'd be running for two offices at the same time.
Yeah, well, I was out and about last night, and I ran into Ross Sawyer, Alderman Ross Sawyer, and it was interesting when I asked him up close, are you really seriously thinking about running for mayor because now it's a wide open field? And the first thing he said was, well, we, meaning his caucus, would have to come together and decide whether they're going to put a candidate. And he kept saying, we have to decide. So maybe there are some moves to try to build a coalition that would involve the aldermen and involve some of the organizations on the south and west side. You think that's possible? And is that where the next part of the story goes? Where do we go from here?
Can you really hold something like that together, though?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the history is that it worked for Harold Washington, and because it worked for him, then they kept trying to recreate it in the next several elections,
Right.
Next 4 or 5 elections, as I remember, and it just never, you couldn't hold it together.
Right. It's almost like lightning is not going to strike twice like that. So you have to, you need a new strategy.
You have to have a candidate strong enough to pull it off. Is Preckwinkle strong enough to pull it off? I don't think she'd back out Willie Wilson. He's got money. He doesn't think like Tony Preckwinkle.
Lori Lightfoot too. I mean, they can go coalesce with her, and she's a progressive. She's
So
lesbian,
does this
she's
make
African American. She's all the things.
So does this make the mayoral tenure of Rahm Emanuel, now he's just a lame duck kind of a mayor, and then nothing will get done? Or do you think now he will be freed up to get a lot of things done? And what are some of the things you think he has left on his plate?
I don't think he's going to go out quietly if we know him at all. He's going to be trying to make giant announcements. We're still waiting on the Amazon announcement. Maybe something will happen with that. Other giant announcements that the city might be waiting for. I can't imagine he would just quietly disappear.
When I interviewed him yesterday, he pulled out a 3x5 note card, and he had really tiny written letters, on both sides, his list of things he wants to get done. And there's nothing I got out of him that isn't already out there. He did hint around that there are some more companies that he thinks he could land that haven't been publicly disclosed at this point.
Right. Did you get the sense though of relief that he got this burden off his shoulder now, whether he's going to run or not run, and he was comfortable with what he was doing?
Oh, absolutely, I do. And at the same time, he emphasized, and I believe him, that he's really going to try to get a lot done in this time. And he can. He'll have to, for one. Mm-hmm. And, talk about him being a lame duck, there's going to be other lame ducks. And one of the advantages of lame ducks is they can vote whatever they think is right, knowing that
they don't have to run for a re-election.
Right.
That's true.
And you might see the same with city council too. What are they?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they'll back him.
So in the next few days, where do you think the story's going to go? What's the next legs on this story? What's the next thing that we have to really, as reporters, look into?
I mean, the thing we're working is still. I mean, the thing people want to know is who's going to get in. And there's these blue chip type candidates that are, kind of playing behind the scenes. Arnie Duncan.
His name came up.
He won't
Somebody
take a
told me
call.
about that.
He won't take a call. But everybody the players are all talking about Arnie Duncan because he's that world. I mean, something that happens in this sort of situation is there is a power business community base in this.
True.
And they want who they want.
So they're secretly someplace getting together and already.
I don't want to make it sound like a cabal, but
it's a cabal, but different kind of cabal.
And maybe they want Michael Sachs, who was Mayor Emanuel's money guy, but maybe he wants to be the guy now. People are talking about him. I don't even know if he lives in the city. But there are people like that. Bill Daley says he wants in. I mean,
Really?
he's telling people he wants in. He's making calls.
That's interesting. Well, what about this? I mean, I've heard other people talk about this is a year of the woman, and there needs to be a pink wave, and maybe we've only had one female mayor. Maybe now is the time to really look at a female to run for mayor. Do you think there's anybody strong enough? That's
Well,
besides Tony
Preckwinkle, Mendoza, Lisa Madigan.
Possibly Susanna Mendoza.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
Lori Lightfoot is running. Dorothy Brown is running. We have
Dorothy Brown, that's the wild card there. You know,
Well,
I mean,
she's trying.
Sorry that we didn't bring her up.
I'm still surprised that she's
wants to do
still
that.
hanging in there, and I think you guys have done a lot of reporting, and she's still hanging in there. So I'm not sure that she'd be one to give up, and it may be by the mayor dropping out, it's going to bring in some new people. Besides the ones that you named, is anybody else you can think of that might pop up?
Valerie Jarrett.
Valerie Jarrett. She crossed
She's
my
in that
mind
blue
because
chip,
she knows
category.
she's in the blue chip, but she has extensive experience with government. You know, from her time in the White House to her time in the Daley administration when she was running the Department of Planning and Development.
Well, that's why I think she's a blue chip candidate. She has, the business community has worked with her. They have a sense of who she is.
Okay.
She's worked with the big powers, not only in the city, but in the nation, so.
So the one question that I haven't asked you guys that I would like to bring up is, do you think that the Laquan McDonald police shooting and how it was handled by Rahm Emanuel had anything to do with the fact that he is not running again? Do you think that was a factor at all?
Well, let me say, first of all, he said it wasn't, but
Who believes that?
I mean, depending on how it goes, still hear the trial. So how the trial goes, it could still be a major problem. I don't want to be, I'm a little, I don't want to be part of this group that's saying, oh, there's going to be a riot. You know, maybe there is, I don't know. But he's got to know that too, and he has to, he has to do what he thinks is right as mayor in that situation. And the fact that he'll be able to do it without having to think exactly about, well, how will Rahm, the candidate, handle this? I mean, that seems like a positive.
What about you?
For
There's
him,
also we just had a very terrible, bloody weekend a couple of weekends ago. And I have to imagine that takes a toll on you too. I mean, it becomes super politicized. You're blamed. You're the mayor. You're not helping these violent neighborhoods. So look how many weekends or years he's experienced this. He's to blame for the gangbangers shooting everybody or all these kids dying. So I have to imagine that played a role in this.
Right. Well, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Tina. The big story, Rahm Emanuel's big news, not running again. Great job.
All right. Thanks, Mary.
Okay.
Look into business. Thank you. Thank you. Oh,
You're pretty good at that hosting thing.
you are.
I understand why they felt like they could send you out here without a script.
No script, no makeup, no nothing.
You did good. You did really good.
Thank you so much.
Are we doing another one?
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, you guys. Is there another one? Yeah.